or sick from the 7th grade class at least. So please make sure I'm recording. If you guys catch me like getting into class and not recording, please somebody tell me. So we should always see the red and white frame around here. But because of the work I need to do, I had to shift my schedule a little bit. We were going to do the test Thursday, Friday. Now, a benefit of doing the test Friday, Monday is if you have issues on Friday, you could take the weekend to study up and practice those skills. Right, Adrian? So you're just facing backwards. Hard for me to tell if people are listening. So, Thursday is determined by our next 2 days. Okay, how well we do, how much we're engaged. If I feel like we won't be able to handle a game, we're not going to play one. So what the game would be, probably, is I have a smartboard-sized version of Connect 4. And you would have teams. We'd have 2 teams for the class. And the Connect 4 game actually, well, okay, I have 2 different games that we could play. We could do like Giant Connect 4 or my Mega Jenga set here. I actually have a smartboard thing that operates with the Mega Jenga. But the whole thing would be like you have to answer a question to either put your checker in the Connect 4 or to pull out a Jenga block. And with the Jenga game, I make the blocks worth points. So your team gains points, and then of course the winning team would get candy. So, Jenga. 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 No, it's not. No, it's not. Jeopardy is a game where they give you the answer and you have to ask the questions.
Oh, that's why they always say,
Yeah. Who is Albert Einstein? So it'd be like the man who invented the theory of relativity. That's what they give you, and you would have to buzz in and say like, "Who is Albert Einstein?" You have to phrase it as a question. Isn't that weird, Mr. Smith? Jeopardy, you have to phrase it as a question.
I love
Yes, I was very confused about that. So probably
Right? Yeah. Like that's some of the kids are like, "Oh, that's why they do that." All right. So, did we have any issues from last night's homework? Any questions that I can help you guys on? Okay, I need specifics.
So, one, the C. Okay. So basically, 2-115, and then 2
So 115, like problem 115.
Yeah, 116 and 115.
Okay, apparently my smartboard does not want to operate how it.
The B and C were the one I didn't have on.
So, this is on purpose. They're taking the skills you've been working on and going to take them to a harder level. So I appreciate you asking, because the reason these are getting harder is you've already done some of these number line scalings. Always your strategy with determining scale, or like how far something is, take the entire distance that we have. So how far is it from 0 to 1? 1, right? But so that's distance divided by how many spaces? 4. And that tells me each of them is either 1/4, I can leave it as a fraction, or 0.25. So I can go back, and this tick mark would be 0.25, this one would be 0.5, this one would be 0.75, or we could say 3/4. My one after the 1 would either be 5/4 or 1.25, right? If each tick mark is worth 1/4 or 25 hundredths, we just kind of count up from there. So then I can get rid of these numbers where I counted how many spaces. Same thing with my next one. If I look at a distance of 1 split between 2 spaces, right? Each tick mark must be a half then, because 1 divided by 2 gives me that half. And how far, by the way, we always assume this intersection is 0, 0. We always assume that. How far is it from 0 to 9? 9, how many spaces? 3, you keep jumping to second question. So 3, 6, 9 would be part C there. Does that make sense now, Eden?
Yeah, the going up is never on C when you went up.
So each one has to be a half, because we take the gap of 1, divide it by the 2 spaces. 1 divided by 2 gives me half of 0.5.
Oh, so 0.5 then.
Yeah, is that first tick mark. Because 0.5 and then another half gets me to 1.
1.5.
Ava?
Okay, I have a question. I'm not on this anymore, but anyways, I have a question for 2.25.
Where is Is that not last night's homework?
No.
So guys, I really need to beg of you, if you have homework questions, you ask them the next day. We're now going back in time to where like most people have probably gotten this done. So like not trying to pick on you, Abe, but you should have asked this like probably Friday or Monday, like before today. But what's your question?
Okay, on the histogram. Okay, I have a question.
Did you look up histogram in the back of the book?
Yeah, I did. But
Okay.
do you need to name the names?
What do you mean name the names?
Like name the side.
You always have to label axes, but on a histogram, I don't even know what number we're talking about, and we really didn't even need to come over here. Histogram, your vertical is always going to be frequency, because it's how many you have. Your horizontal, this is the only case, okay, not only, I probably should use that word sparingly, where this doesn't need to be 0. Now that is 0 on the frequency side, but here, depending on my data, I could start at 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever. So let's say I start at 30 and then go to 35. This bar tells me how many people fell in that range, or dogs, cats, whatever I'm talking about. Then my next one has to be equally spaced. So it has to be 40. And maybe there's less in the 30 to 40. My next one has to be to 45. Now, this is where people also have questions of like, so if it is 45, does it go in this one or that one? You have to make that choice. Is this 30 up to 34? And then the next one is 35 to 39. Like, you have to make the choice of where the break numbers go. So does the 35 go left? And then every break number has to go left. If the 35 goes right, every break number has to go right, like where the break in the bars happens. So I went to the right, so in this stack is 40 to 44. My next stack will be 45 to 49. And keep going. Other questions? Kevin? Or you just...
No, it's about the homework.
Which?
2.3.1. D. For 2 guys, 1 work.
D. So we have the product up here. So remember the top is the multiplication and the bottom is the addition. So I know that because I multiplied and got a positive and I added and got a positive, both of these have to be positive. If my addition was negative and this was positive, both would be negative because negative times a negative can make a positive. We want to think about the factors of 234 that can potentially add to 31. So I mean, we can start with like 1 and 234, but obviously we're really far away. So I would try to jump to some factors in the middle. I mean, I could do 2 and 117, but we're still like nowhere close to adding up to 31. So I'm not going to process this all the way out for you. If you want to talk about this later, we can. If you want to think about factors that are more towards the middle, I guess I can't really even move that. So like 231 divided by, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, one of those numbers in the middle of 31. Try that out and see what happens. So you just need to find perfect divisions. So it doesn't divide by 12 perfectly. Does not divide by 14 perfectly. This is a weird number. Divides by 13 perfectly. So I will give you the hint. 13 is a factor. You need to figure out what is the other factor, and if they add up to make 31, you're good. If not, keep trying numbers kind of close to, and by middle, I mean kind of the middle of this number. 31, if I know I'm going to add to make that, and I'm going to use 2 positive numbers, fine, I'll go ahead and give this one away. If I divide 234 by 13, I get 18. What's 13 plus 18? 31. So these have to become 13 and 18 because they sum to 31 and they multiply to 234. Does that make sense, Kevin? Ethan?
Does it matter if X is 13 or 18?
No. I could put the 18 over here and the 13 over here because, that's a fantastic question, addition and multiplication order doesn't matter. Right? So I can change the order and it stays the same thing. Other questions?
Did you ever tell us when to turn in 223 or 226?
But we're collecting the rest of the homework with the test.
Oh.
Yeah, so it'll all be collected with the test. So like on test day. And you could turn it in early once you get I think I am going to collect closure this time. I did not collect it last time. I did not collect the end of the chapter last time, but I'm just going to collect all the rest of the homework. So I'll list them out for you on test day. I'll be here through this week. I'm just going to have to take Monday for the basement stuff. All right, let's do some math. Everybody should have their homework written down. You should have graph paper out, and you should have a header on your paper potentially. If not yet, more graph scaling. So you could also say scaling graphs, or you could continue from yesterday's notes. I want to make a reminder because I have people in my Accelerated 7 class struggling with this, so give me your eyes. I'm going to wait till I have people on me so I know you're listening. When we turn in our homework, they need to be in order, either from oldest to newest or newest to oldest. If they're not, from here out, I'm just handing it back to you. Once I realize it's out of order, I'm not even going to check what you have or don't have. I'm not putting in extra work for you having a lack of organization. Okay, one of the skills we're working on is organization. So if you know right now on Tuesday that I'm collecting homework on Thursday or Friday, and your homework's not in order, like start taking some time during AO extensions, get your binder in order. Notes can continue on, but every homework assignment should have, bless you, should have its own new page when you start. Every homework assignment should have a new page when you start. Now, if you haven't been doing that, that doesn't mean recopy your homework. Come see me. If you haven't done that, come see me. But that's what we've been saying the whole time. Notes are allowed to continue from previous days. Homeworks need to be on fresh paper. Okay? Any questions about that? Right.
So you can't put it on the back of the
No, absolutely not. You start homeworks on the front of paper with the holes on the left with a header on the top.
And try to use graph.
Oh yeah, try to use graph paper because it's just easier for you. Like, and if you have issues with like you think the graph paper's too busy, there's different types of graph paper where the graph's like not as bold. So like, come see me if you want to like look at. I have a bunch of different types of graph paper. Okay?
So one night I was doing my homework and I didn't have graph paper. So
It's okay.
I did it on line paper.
You guys should really keep graph paper in both your binders though, your math binder and your big binder, so you just always have it with you. Because like no matter what, I know some of you guys are trying to get away with the whole don't take a binder home thing, but if you have math homework, I would advise taking your math binder home. If you have other homework, I would just advise taking your 2-inch binder with your plan book and everything. If it was me, I'd always take the 2-inch binder home because it has your plan book, our phone numbers, everything that you need aside from like what's in your specific subject binders. So we are continuing on the same skill, which is why I wanted to take some time and go over homework questions before we started. So we are now going to look at Andre. So Andre works in his family's juice shop, and he's got this data table. So day 3, day 4, apparently they were closed on day 5, day 6, day 9, day 10, day 12. So he went through the cash register, got this data. Right, how many smoothies they sold. He wants to graph this data and use it to predict approximately how many Math Berry Madness smoothies he can expect to sell by day 20. So this is your total, right? They don't have, like a lot of business, right? They're not selling a ton of smoothies, but after 3 days they had sold 3. After 4 they had sold 5. Because I think it makes more sense to be totals because it keeps going up. Yeah, because it's how many smoothies have been sold throughout the first month. So, yeah. Andre does this. I was debating how much to say. Because again, this is like my first time modifying. Last year I just taught, right? I just taught CPM, just how it went. This year I'm doing some more modifications. So take a moment and look at Andre's graph. I want you to talk with your team. There's some issues here. Andre's still progressing. What advice do we need to give to Andre? Talk for like a minute with your team. Figure that out. I'm going to use cards today. So everybody make sure you have an answer. What's wrong with his graph? Why would he get a grade of progressing? So you don't need to write anything down. Just talk with your team. What do you notice? I'm going to zoom in even more. so awesome. That's what you mean. My teachers wouldn't let me go. We try that with kids every now and then, but it doesn't work. Mr. Wolf. Adrian. His last name is Wolf, in case you didn't know. What is wrong? What advice would you give to Adrian? And just give me whatever you want. I can call in more people if we got more to see. Adrian's right there. Adrian's the dude with the sweet blonde hair. Yeah, Adrian. Okay, well, he's right there. So, Adrian, what advice? Doesn't go up to 20, so I'm not going to be able to really predict my 20 based off of here because my graph doesn't go to 20. So I probably want my graph to go to at least 20, and if we're talking about a month, we could even take it out to 30 if we want. What else is wrong? Sky, you're actually next.
Oh, hi, Daniel.
Yeah.
So he put the exact numbers for the smoothie sold, and he should have put like, I don't know the right bar for like 5, 10, integers. Yes.
So what's wrong with the numbers he put there? Why can't he just put the numbers of smoothies sold and the number of the day?
It's not in a like pattern, I guess. So then it's just like.
This box is worth 3. This box is worth 2. That box is worth 5.
Oh, wait, and I
This
have
box is worth 10. That one's worth 8.
I have another thing really quick.
He's lost his mind. You can't do that. Sky, keep going.
And it also doesn't really show the pattern because since he's just like the
Yeah.
X to line things, because each box he's just going to the next number, so then it's just gonna keep going the
Yeah.
same line.
Here's your challenge. Take the data, graph it appropriately. So you're going to set up your axes, your X and Y, and we only need that top right quadrant. Come on. 7th grade appropriate classroom behavior. If you guys can't sit together, move. You need to make your days go to at least 20 because we need to predict that amount of smoothies sold. You need your y-axis for your smoothies sold to, should I stop at 38? No, I'm going to have to be higher than 38 to go to day 20. What do you think would be a safe amount of smoothies to stop at 30? Yeah, I don't think 40 is enough. 50 might be far enough. So I'd say probably take your y-axis. So x needs to go up to 20. Y needs to go up to 50. Figure out on your graph paper how you want to scale that. You guys, our graphs are going to be unique to how you make it, right? So not everyone's graphs will be the same here. We just want to practice and we scale it correctly.
Isn't it a No, that's a really, really stupid question.
So I'm going to switch screens and help get you started. Your data table's up on the TV. So you want to make a y-axis coming down, x-axis coming across. I need this to go up to 50. Somewhere, it doesn't have to be all the way at the very top. And I need this to go out to 20. Somewhere, it doesn't have to be all the way at the right. So then you're going to choose an appropriate amount of boxes that you want to use for these things. And then the correct scale that will work. So if I had 10 boxes going vertically, how much should each box be worth? 5, right? Because 50 divided by 10 would be 5 for each box. Now, if I did each box was 10, I'd only go 5 boxes high, and that would probably be not a big enough graph. It probably wouldn't be spread out enough. So try this out on your own. Do not look up here unless you need help. I'm just going to label a tiny bit of mine, and I'm going to walk around and help you guys if you need.
Assume that it's 0. Assuming the graph is 0, we should do it. That would then there would only be
if you want to make life easy and make your graph look like mine, I'm using a 10 by 10 grid. Then put the points on there, right? Once you have your graph, we got to put the points on there. So the data table up on the TV, you got to plot those points. I watched a lot of volleyball when my sister played. Some of the best rounds. It was just amazing. I didn't remember the rally like going and he barely clipped the net at the very top, but that it's dead ball. It's like the other team gets the point. Yeah, the coach. What? You guys don't like volleyball? It was sweet. It was a great game. So if I use 10 boxes going this way, and I need to go up to 20, how much should each box be worth? Two. You guys realize being a middle school teacher is just a way that you don't really have to grow up. Well, I am not. I can assure you of that. My wife would be rather upset.
And how old is your sister?
College.
There's another thing.
Yeah, I'm only 11 years old.
You're only 11 years old?
If older.
He's only 25.
Hey, the importance of mathematical phrasing, right? Older, not old.
You're
Two
only
very
25
different
years
things.
old.
What's 18 plus 11?
Oh, that's 29.
3.
I love the Harry
In
Potter
between the
drawing.
2 and the 4. All right, now we're actually doing math. So we're refocused. There's my 3.
You're not old for 18.
It's not wrong. You did this by 5s out your x-axis? That's okay, but you're going to be kind of tight. Like your points are going to be close together, so you're going to make your job a little bit harder. So I love that question. One thing we should be realizing here is the more spread out we can make our data, the easier it is to look at. So notice how I use my whole screen. Now I don't want you using your entire sheet of graph paper, but don't make your graph small. Make it big enough that you can easily see things. Because now when I go to graph 4 or 5, 4 or 5 is right here. When I go to graph 610, when we go to graph 920, right there, 1028, unless you're totally done and you already have your prediction for 20, we should not really be talking. 12 and 38. Now, what are you going to need to draw that prediction line? Something straight, right? Sky, how do I do this? Do you know how to draw my line of best fit that we did yesterday? Where do we start? So, here's another thing that we need to learn as we go through the year. So I'm going to start layering this on. Give me your eyes for a second. Give me your eyes for a second. We are establishing what we're assuming is a proportional relationship, which means as I am open for more days, I will sell more smoothies. Bless you, which makes sense. I'm not going to sell less smoothies by being open tomorrow. I can't go back in time, right? I'm either going to sell no more or positive, right? I can't go negative. So we start at 0, 0. Everybody get something straight? And then, does that work? So who that's not Sky, actually, Joey, you're next up, actually. How do I place my line so it's accurate?
In the middle.
What do you mean in the middle?
The dots.
In the middle of the... So now I have, there?
Yeah.
No, not quite.
Oh.
Because notice, hold up, notice that I have 2 above, 4 below. Nathan?
Put the line right here.
Put it on that guy. Yeah, I'm going to go tiny bit below that point. Yeah, to kind of try to, cut between. I like it. So there's 3 and 3. So Nathan's on it right here. I think I had a little like surge in sales right here. I had a really good day here, but that seems like maybe it might be like an outlier. It's really far away from my data. So my line of best fit is either going to be there or potentially could be like there. If we want to really like predict positively, either of those could work for a line of best fit. You could do either of those. So please draw your line of best fit in the middle of those points. If you need a ruler or something, you can grab that. Actually, my advice is I'm trying to find little bins or something for at your groups, but I'm hoping you guys will have geometry templates at your tables here very soon. Maybe I'll be able to take care of that on Monday. Then, to predict, right? They want us to predict day 20. How do I do that? Can Sophia talk me through this?
So you'll go to 20.
Go to 20.
And then you're going to go up until you hit the line.
I'm going to go through both because I gave two different options.
Okay.
If I go with this line, what's my prediction then? About 42, 43. If I go with this line, that would have crossed right through there. I'm at like 52, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere between 42 and 52. So we could say like 45 would be a pretty good prediction because it's between those two lines. Now 42 could be good. If you just do one line, that's like a rock solid prediction. 42 works. But since we said like a couple different lines could work and anywhere in between those lines, 45 would be fine. Sky, question?
I did something wrong, but I don't know what I did wrong.
How do you know you did something wrong?
Because whenever I like drew the line and then I drew the line up, it's going to 35.
Did you check your location of your points? Like 6, 10, 9, 20, 10, 28, and then 12, 38? Because that's a big jump from 28 to 10. It's 10, 28. The 20 goes with the 9. 9, 20, then 10, 28. I'll come back and check your graph once I get us started on the next one. Any other questions about this one? How to scale. I have to keep shushing. What's up here? Any other questions about how to choose scale? Right, I wanted to use my whole screen as much as I could. How to plot the points or how to draw that line. Any questions before we move on? Speak now. You know, that inner piece.
That's exciting.
Watch Kung Fu Panda.
Yes. Sorry, Jalen. Shh. Who? Joey.
Wait, is the line of best fit where you place the 20?
It's these black lines. So really, I should only put one on here, but I could make an argument that this line's a line of best fit because my behavior has started to increase faster. And like, if we're going to anticipate this was just a slow start, it'd be okay to have 4 points under there. So if I delete this line and I say this is my line of best fit, my prediction's 52. If I delete this line, which this is probably a truer line of best fit, but then that leaves this point really far away, then my prediction is 42. As long as you have work to support what you tell me, it would probably be right. Is that my computer? Or is that from the family room?
What?
Oh, yeah, that was really awkward.
What?
I think that was from the family room. I don't.
Was it music?
Oh, yep. Oh, ha! Will you go tell Pettigrew she's good now? I had to close my Spotify. Wait, she was playing music from in there on my computer. So I just said, she might need to reload. Yeah, she might need to reload up Spotify. That I'm not crazy. So Spotify has this really interesting algorithm where you can control music from other places. So I can use my cell phone as a remote control for my computer. So Mrs. Pettigrew is essentially just hijacking my computer.
That's what I do. Remember I turned on my
Let's use this. Hey, look. CPM knows that Columbus is a metropolitan hub and has lots and lots of people living here. So they talk about Columbus every now and then. So this is data from the Columbus Recreation Center, probably from like 3 or 4 years ago. Right here, this table, for how many times. So, guests must pay one annual membership fee and then another small fee each time they visit. Each time they swim, more so. And because pools are expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
Jeff and his 5 friends kept track of how many times they visited the pool and how much money they spent. We want to take this table and determine a scaling for the graphs. So, let's go ahead and copy this table down in our notes. Sorry, I'll zoom in some more so you guys can see it easier. We're going to set this up as X and Y axes like immediately. So go ahead and label that this is our X and this is our Y, but make sure you know that this is like number of visits, and you can just like hashtag visits, and then you can just like $ over here. But we want to copy this table down. So please get that in your notes. I see people like not doing anything. Yeah, I'm not even 100% sure. I'm kind of bouncing around because we're running out of time today. I will look it up though. I know I could scroll, but I don't want to right now. Yeah, 1, 2, 2, part B. We skipped part A because I wanted to do the Columbus Rec Center one. Now, this is going to be a different situation. Hey, can you join us and like try to do this problem? Do you have the table copied down?
Almost.
No. Where's it started? The table? Because if I walk back there and I look for a number of visits and costs, I'm going to see that. So, don't lie to me. I'm your teammate.
I thought you meant this.
Not the graph, the table that I've asked multiple times for us to get into our notes because I can't move my page until we have it copied down. Then, like we just did, we're going to make a graph. Now, essentially on my screen, I can only fit like a 10 by 10. You can use more squares than that if you want, but 10's a nice number. Now, here, like to divide by 10 is easy. You just move a decimal point. Here's where I say this graph's going to be different. They tell us there is a fee even if I never go swim. I have to pay an annual fee, which means when I look at my graph, it's going to start somewhere not at 0, and then it's going to go up. So after you graph your points and you go to make your line of best fit, don't force it to go here. This is not proportional. The amount of times I swim is not the only thing that determines my price. I have to pay no matter what. So this graph is going to start somewhere else, but once you graph the points and make the line, it should be evident. I'm going to put this up on the TV. I'm going to set my graph up, but you guys should be doing this on your own. We got about 8 minutes left. We got plenty of time for this. Set up your axes, choose an appropriate scale, talk with your teammates if you want to see what they're doing, but I'm going to make a 10 by 10 graph because that's what fits on my screen. Table still on the TV. And we do want to label. We didn't label the last graph, but we do always want to label. So my y-axis is dollars. And this is, sorry, that hashtag is a little close together. Yeah, sorry, it's a hashtag visit. It's number of visits. Please forgive me. I apologize. How high does my number of visits go? What's the highest? 114, but I'm going to round that to something nicer.
Oh, I thought you meant the dollar.
Oh, 120. Yeah, 1 by 10.
I like it. 120 would work. What about, who said 150? 150? So check it. If I make it 115, stick with me for a minute, and I divide that by 10 boxes, Each box is 11.5. Gross. Hold on. Hang on. And you guys can make whatever choice you want. Hold on. If I make it 120 and I divide by 10, what would each box be worth? 120 divided by 10, move the decimal. 12. Now, 12 is nicer, but still not great. What if I just go ahead and make this 150? So then I can count 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. Like, it's easy to count by 15. It's not bad to count by 12s. You could do either, but if I want to be able to predict things off this graph, I need to go beyond where it is. Right? So I need to go beyond the 114. If I do 150, that will make my life easy. That is not quite in the right place. I need to bump it one more. Because then my scaling, so Aiden, to answer your question of it will, my scaling then only needs to go by 15s. So 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 105, 120, 135. If you have a 10 by 10, then figure out your x-axis. Now you don't have to do that y-axis. It's just one thing that would work nice. That's not quite. Well, first off, your 9 and your 10 are supposed to be the same person. Your 9 should be over to the left because it looks like it's on this one. And then 1238 is a little bit. So with that point being bumped over, like your line of best fit's not. You go to 20. Your line of best fit is just one more. But you're riding through that point. And then we have 3 above, 2 below, 1 on. If I bump this up, this thing left. Then it does kind of dramatically. So it's just that your line of best fit is just slightly. You're welcome. So I goofed up, but it's okay because I didn't goof up that bad. And I'm curious if anybody caught the goof.
What? Wait, I'm gonna go.
Ready? No. So, hold on, let me answer that question first. When we talk about X and Y depends, hey guys, you're going to be the one getting progressions and I'm not going to be sad about it because you're talking at the same time as me. Y depends on X. Okay, the Y value is determined when the X changes. So my days change. I sell more smoothies, right? My smoothies sold depends on how many days I'm open. The money I owe depends on how many times I go. But I was looking at the X column and filling in the Y. I know that as soon as I tell you, of course you know it. But notice my Y column, it's got to go to 150. So I'm just high enough. Your Y has to go to 150. I read the X and I put it on the Y. But my X needs to go to 115. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to make it go to 150. Because I also, like personally, I like when my scales on the X and the Y can match. It doesn't have to, but it's nicer that way. So if I do this, I can actually make these scales be the same thing. I'm going to skip and just do every 30, 90, 120, and 150. So then place your points. 18, 53, just past the 15, and is somewhere in here. 2965. So remember, if each box is worth 15, a third of it would be 5. A third of your box would be 5. 100, 135, well, 90, so 100 would be here. 135. Oh, right up here.
Wait, did you say 60, 90, 135?
I mean, it's in the data table. Sorry, you should have the data table on your paper.
I got it.
84, 119. We're talking. I assume we're done.
Why is
Can I come see your line of best fit and your prediction? Oh, look, we're not done. I'm getting really tired of this, guys.
wait what? I'm confused.
It's just off-task behavior. That's what. You're not missing anything.
Wait, Miss, I'm sorry. Where did you see 90? I'm sorry. I had this.
It was 84, 119. I think is where you got hung up
Oh,
on.
I was like, what?
Or so X and Y, right? Left column's X, right column's Y. 6297. 114, 149. Now we can't start at 0, 0 because we know that's not true. And of course, my data doesn't even look like it would start at 0, 0. So take your ruler, place it on here, rotate. Where's my rotate? Forget if I can rotate the ruler or not. I know I can rotate the protractor, so give me a second. So I'm using a protractor instead of a ruler, just so that I can rotate it. If my smart board will let me. No, it's just how my smart board reacts.
How it's old, right?
They might have done. I just need to delete this. So I straight line through here, and I can rotate my straight line. I'm trying to get on as many points. Oh, I'm way over. We got to end class, but I'm trying to get on as many points as possible. Even out the above below. So once you get this line on your paper, that's all we got for class today. Right about there, probably. So it looks like, what does it look like your fee is before you swim at all? What is this? Where's your line? Hit your y-axis. 45, maybe $50, right? 45 or 50, that's probably the annual fee at the Columbus Rec Center. And we can look it up. Remind me tomorrow and we'll check it. Have a great day, guys. We'll pick this up tomorrow. We got time, especially since I'm bumping the test. Yeah, AO extensions. I got a class coming in. Sorry, man. I wish I could see you right now.